today we're going to be visiting with Laura Derrick, University Project Manager and Architect. But before we get into that, we'll call on our President of the University, Cliff Smart.
Hi, everyone. It's a busy but exciting time of the year, right? Commencements are Friday, which is the same deadline the legislature has to pass a budget. I think ours is going to go better. Senate still hasn't even taken up the budget yet. They're claiming they're going to do that at 2 o'clock today, but kind of like the forecast, I wouldn't hold your breath. We'll see. But on our side, and I thought I'd share some numbers with you. We will graduate on Friday, 3,078 students. Pretty good. Pretty good. That's about 150 more than last year. 2,222 of those students will get undergraduate degrees, and 856 will get graduate degrees, of which 106 will receive their doctorates from the service. Yeah. One of the things I always brag about is our transition to a professional doctoral university is a huge thing for the profile of the university, but also for the workforce of Southwest Missouri, and very proud of that. And this is something that has come about in the last 5 or 6 years. Many of our academic programs have developed certificates such that when you graduate, for example, with a hospitality leadership degree, you also may have a certificate in hotel management to really help you be employable, to be able to sell yourself. And so this year, 1,155 students will have earned certificates as well. So again, I think that's an important piece of our being engaged in the workforce. And then on Saturday, I'll be in West Plains, where an additional 232 students will graduate with their associate degrees. Commencements Friday are at 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, Dave Trottier will be receiving an honorary bachelor's degree. He's been a huge supporter of the university, but spent his life developing and running grocery store businesses. And so he is very excited for that. And that will happen at the 5 o'clock ceremony. One of the other big things that will happen at the board meeting is finally in year 43 of the foundation's existence, we will ask the board to approve a memorandum of understanding between the foundation and the university that lines out kind of all of the obligations, responsibilities, and goals of each side. You know, Brent and I just run that on a just handshake deal for the last 13 years. The foundation's only had 2 executive directors. And so with this building sold, with my retirement, Brent and Jim Wilson and Mark McQuarrie and others thought it was time to get all of that put down on paper. And so we'll get that across the finish line on Thursday at our board meeting. And the board will also approve the Wall of Fame inductees for homecoming of 23. But I can't tell you who those are yet. You'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there'll be an article or two in the media when that comes out. And so that's the big piece this week. It's the legislature, the board meeting, and graduation. Next week, we decompress and wrap up the semester. And then on the following Friday, I head to Florida. So with that, I'll kick it back over to Brent.
Thank you for your lead. And we'll have University Administrative Council in Florida. So we'll all probably Laura Derrick, come on up. Laura Derrick is our genius, and please welcome. So, this, as you know, and you've been to these before, so we're very nice to the guests. I know we have 30 or 40 people online as well. And so, Laura's the university project manager and architect in planning and design and construction. So we're gonna talk, obviously, how you got into that, your background, and a little bit about what else you do on campus. But the title of today's talk, tell us how you came up with that
Well, I'm
title.
glad you asked, Brent. I didn't come up with that title.
It's on.
Okay. Actually, my boss, Mark Wheeler, is the university architect in London. So when I saw it, I was like, what, Alchemy?
It was unlocking the alchemy in
Yeah.
construction,
So
blah,
I
blah,
looked that
blah.
up.
Yep.
Because I am in education. So it's a power process that changes or transforms something in a mysterious or impressive way.
Huh. What does that mean?
And then I also did a little more research, because I do have a master's from Missouri State University, so I know how to do research. And there, at the University of Melbourne, there's actually a class called Alchemy of Construction.
Really?
And talks about the construction process, the stakeholders, material science, documentation, building systems, material selections. That's basically alchemy.
Okay, guess we're done for today. Thank you all.
If you like that source, just let me know.
Okay, we're gonna start from the beginning, as we do all our guests. Tell us where you grew up.
Well, I grew up in a little town northeast Missouri called Cahokia, Missouri. It's county seat, 2,000 people.
What county?
Clark County,
Clark County.
going back to the first governor.
Okay,
We also took a little trip to the west. It's in the center. So, and my mother was a high school librarian and got a degree in home ec from Northeast Missouri State University. I still call it that. And my father was a car salesman at a dealership. And he's a very small town, very small school, and very active. And when I was 12, my mom got me a book on architecture, and that's when I decided to.
wow. So growing up, tell us more about your family.
Well, my sister, some of you may know my sister and my former brother-in-law, Kirby Cannon. He played baseball and football at Missouri State, or at SMS, I should say. And my sister was here also. She was in the dorm, was an RA at, I think it was Woods, yeah. And, like I said, small town, rode the bike all over town. The doors were always unlocked. Played kick the can in the street. I played softball, basketball, went to state and track. And was in the band, was in our club, pretty much everything.
So what instrument did you play?
I played trombone, baritone, and
Wow, can you still play?
no.
No.
My mom sold the trombone at the yard sale, so I don't know.
So, you wanted to be an architect at age 12. So what up with that? I mean, how did you decide that at a young
Well,
age?
I always like to draw. My mother is an artist as well. And when I think it was about 9, because I've been thinking about this, because I knew you were probably gonna ask this.
Yeah.
At the Osco Drug, they had a huge Lego display of a castle. And every time we went to the mall in Keokuk, which is across the river, because we didn't have any real stores in Cahokia, I would run to Osco and just look at everything. So I saved all my allowance and bought me a Lego set, which I still have, and just started making stuff.
So, as in elementary school, so were you really good at math, science? Or
I was
was it
okay.
hard?
That was okay.
So you have to have math to be an
Not as much
architect,
as you would think.
really?
So,
Well, that's
it's
scary.
not an
But you still have to be
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
took all the math I could, all the science I could, that they offered at school.
So if you weren't gonna be an architect, what would have been second?
Basketball coach.
Basketball coach. Really? Okay, so 12th grade, she got you a book on architecture. I mean, it was like how to be an architect?
That is what
or-
architects do.
Okay.
What the job entails, what you do.
Okay, so you're going into high school. still full steam ahead? Did they have, I had drafting.
Yeah, I had drafting.
I had drafting at Central High School for 2 weeks and I dropped it.
I want to say a word.
You did. So,
I'm an underachiever, you know.
so where did you go after that?
Well, I was a Girl Scout, and at Girl Scout camp, I met, was talking to some of the leaders, and one of them's brother was going to Kansas State University. And it's in-state tuition to this day, which was very appealing to my parents. So made a visit, signed up, they accepted me, and so I went to Kansas State.
And how long is the school there? How long were you?
All of them are 5 years.
5 years.
6 years if you get a master's.
Okay. And did you have a specific area that you said, man, this is what I want to do in houses, buildings?
Well, K-State has 3 programs. They have landscape architecture, architecture, and interior architecture. And I just went with straight architecture, but historic preservation really is what I really enjoy.
And your first job out of college?
Was with a company that lasted 6 months after I got here. And then I got loaned to Alan Casey on some of you may.
So you came to Springfield.
I came directly. to
So
Springfield.
how did you get here?
Well, my mom was down for a conference, for a library conference, and it was right at the beginning of the recession in the mid-80s. I was gonna go to Chicago, but that wasn't happen. So I came down here, had 5 interviews in one day, had 3 offers, and then drove back to Manhattan.
And so you've been to Springfield
Oh,
prior
yeah,
to this?
for football games.
Right,
I
right.
know Brent Stadium very well.
Yeah. That's another subject, but, so where did you start working? Here.
Owen Williams was the company here.
Yeah.
And like I said, they closed the doors in 6 months.
What?
But
Why?
they just
We don't want to get into that. Okay,
didn't do that.
okay.
But back then, architects would loan people to other firms if they needed extra help. So they had loaned me to Alan Casey's company that he was with. And so I was with them about 5 years and then started my own company.
Awesome. And so what were some of your early projects that you're most proud of?
Well, probably the first one was the Springfield Business Journal office on Park Central West. That was a big one. Maria's Mexican is one, known as Italian. Flame is another one. I worked on about 80 buildings downtown, Walnut Street and Commercial Street,
And those are all historic?
all historic properties, because nobody wanted to do it. And 2, it was hard to do renovation in Springfield because the city hall, everything was pretty fractured. So the health department said, well, the fire department's gonna make you do this, and the fire department said, well, no. So we put together, working with the Chamber of Commerce, a redevelopment team, where we got all of those departments together with potential building owners. It's before they purchased the building, so they'd understand what it was gonna take to renovate it. And that was around 95, 96. So if some of you remember, that's when downtown really started seeing change. And that was a collaborative group event, and it really made everything start happening.
What is it about the historic buildings that really?
I see them as more challenging. That you have to think through what is original, what do you want to keep, what when you throw away. The big question people have, well, renovation costs too much. Well, if you tear out all the walls and start over, yeah, it does. But if you look at what you can keep and what you enhance, then you can have a really nice textural building and not spend as much.
So harder to do than
I think it is, but
new construction?
I think so.
Okay. So
I'm sure some of the people that are watching from my office.
So then how did you get to Missouri State then?
Well, when I came to Springfield, I always wanted to teach. I was a TA at K-State for the associate dean and another professor.
And
So
teaching
architecture at that point.
just general
Just
architecture?
helping with, yeah. And so I always wanted to teach. I come from a family of educators. And I don't know how I got the teaching job at MSU. I think it probably was a contractors association meeting or something. So I started teaching part-time in the construction management department. And then 1 year, one of the instructors in interior design went on sabbatical, so I taught full year, 1 year.
And what was it about teaching that you enjoyed?
You know, like I teach AutoCAD, and we just obviously finished our semester. And to watch the students struggle, and then all of a sudden the light goes off and they just run. That's,
That's fun. AutoCAD, tell us.
that's a computer aided drafting.
Uh,
Been around for a while. That's what I do.
okay.
Nobody uses a pencil.
Okay. The drafting, I mean, you had to be, that was difficult versus AutoCAD? No? Well. Yeah, we're getting there. So you came over to Missouri State teaching and then,
Then I started my company and did that. I think it was 2003, I got on the board. And most of the building stock was pretty much on its way being done, and I shifted directions and went to work at Bass Pro Shops at their fabrication shop in Nixa to do documentation and kind of set up their systems. And then things slowed down and I got shifted to corporate and did special projects for them, and then started working on stores. And then I got the opportunity to work at Outdoor World One, which is the granddaddy. And probably one of my favorite projects there was the NRA Sporting Arms Museum. I was the owner's rep project manager on that. And that was a lot of fun. If you haven't been there, it's an amazing museum.
and then you got hired in design and construction.
No.
No? Okay.
Then I worked on the WOW Museum as well. I was a project manager on that for a while. And then that kind of ended.
Construction on that as
A
well.
lot of construction.
Yeah.
And
How complex was that?
incredibly complex.
Because how long did that take?
I was on the project for 5 years.
Wow.
And a lot of you know Johnny, it could have been. But it's awesome because whenever he says, I think we need to shift that this way or move that way, it always works. So you just go with it.
Yeah, okay.
So then,
Then,
yeah,
okay.
so then I got a call from my co-professors over there that they needed another instructor. So I went back to the university teaching in 2017.
Okay.
And then the position in planning, design, construction opened up and I applied for that. Here we are.
Ah. So you've done a bunch of projects on campus, and this would be a difficult question. So what's your favorite?
Well, it has to be Glen Hall. I mean, it is very challenging. It's an addition, which is new construction plus renovation, plus a historic property, in which the state told us it's historic, so it's historic.
And why was that historic?
Well, it was designed by a company out of Kansas City that won some AIA regional awards. They are a known company, mostly in Kansas City, but the building had not been changed at all, practically. So it was an original condition from 1971, and it's a brutalist style architecture, which is very rare. This building is kind of a pseudo brutalist, but most of the brutalist buildings got torn down for obvious reasons. I mean, they're bunkers. I mean, they're not very attractive.
But it's a unique,
Very.
it's very unique building. Okay. And so tell us, if people aren't familiar with what that is going to do, the expansion and then the renovation, give us a snapshot.
Well, a little background. We started, and I know Dee Yockey's here. She's been a party in this all the way. We started with a master plan for all of CNAS in 2019, fall of 2019. And to look at what are the needs, what are the shortfalls, what are the needs, what does it look like for the future? And we established kind of 3 tenets with that is putting science on display, because Blunt Hall has only windows in the offices, so you can't see anything. So that was one of the priorities. 2 is enabling more research. There's hardly any good research space in the existing building. There's some, but it's really not that great. And then also looking to the future for CNAS. How can we design a space that's flexible enough that they can be flexible with how science moves and how it changes? So we started with that. We finished that report in the spring, I think, the fall of 20. Made it through COVID. That's how we all learned how to do Zooms, which really worked out great for that project. And then we figured, okay, now we got to figure out how we're going to raise the funds for this. And then Senator Brent decided to retire, and we got the money and we ran right into starting design in 2021. We hired the construction manager at risk in 22 and broke ground in spring of 23.
And the total construction project?
Is $120 million, $121.1 million.
So this would be the largest, most expensive project on campus. The arena was what, 67 million, something like that. But to do the arena now,
Twice.
27. So why, and of course, we're building a new advancement center, so we're looking at construction costs. So why is it so expensive per square foot now?
Well, before
I'm really
COVID,
mad.
I know, I've heard.
So, yeah, so why?
Well, before COVID, really the recession in '08 started kind of that cycle of losing labor. And we haven't done a real good job bringing in new people into construction. Everybody wants to be a manager, but nobody wants to do the work.
Mhm.
And so we started losing people, retired early. They weren't training the next generation. You didn't have the next generation. And then when COVID hit, we lost the rest of it. And with that also became material shortages. Nobody keeps inventory anymore. When you order it, you wait for it. There's nothing on the shelf. And right now, mechanical units are 52 weeks. Electrical panels can go up to 3 years.
It's really depressing.
And that's,
So that's why.
yeah.
That's,
And it's material costs. And when we started Blunt Hall, Amazon was building a bunch of warehouses. So steel was very hard to come by and it was very expensive. So those are the trends we have to look at when we're looking at what materials we're going to use in the building, what kind of labor that we need and that kind of thing. And schedules, it affects schedules as well.
and the region.
National, it's national.
But in the region, I mean, construction, not just here on this campus, I mean, it's pretty cool when you see two big cranes on campus, you know, something's.
Well, we have to do.
Yeah, that's right. That is. But are there too many construction projects in the region? For the labor?
I mean, not really. I think, we have a lot of labor that comes from around the state. Our project is predominantly local labor, but we have some coming out of Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, that are also on the project. I think we only have 2 companies out of state that are working on the project, which is nice. I think to say there's too much, I think it's more about when everything is happening. Most of these projects, like you look at Blunt Hall compared to Kemper just started, so there's a staggered effect. So you don't have the same people working at the same time. So if you can work it that way, then, you know, having good construction is good. It's good for the economy. It's good for training. It's good for all this. It's good for our students. We have a lot of students. We have 3 on staff with Whiting Turner that were construction managers, and there's 2 interns right now that are construction managers.
So how would you foresee the future then in construction, since you're still teaching that? Are you seeing more and more wanting to go into it, or is it still the shortage of
We're
this?
seeing more management, yes.
We got too many managers?
It's,
Oh,
sometimes.
too many bosses and not enough.
Yeah, sometimes you can have too many, and they just are standing there doing nothing, which really bothers me. It's like, I'm paying you to do what? But, what's really happening though, I know OTC and some of the other trade organizations in town are doing a really good job in kids that don't really want to go to college, there's other options. And with technology and construction today, it's so much easier than it used to be. You have tools to work through things that you didn't have before. Robots are becoming more and more prominent in construction. So there's less injuries because they're doing literally the heavy lifting. So there's a lot of excitement about new ways of doing construction, and I think that's starting to attract.
So tell us about the Kemper project and how that affects, and I know you're not on the academic side totally, but how does that affect the academics for construction management?
Well, I think what they're building over there is really going to help them with training and their students understanding how buildings go together. That is my biggest challenge, is working with people that don't quite get, you have to put the concrete up first before you put in the ductwork. Sometimes it gets mixed up a little bit. So I know it sounds intuitive, but the training aspect, and giving them a hands-on, because a lot of construction managers in the field don't get necessarily hands-on, they walk around and look at it, but they don't necessarily do it. So anytime you can give a student the opportunity, even if they're gonna be in management, to, put up a frame wall, understand what it takes to do that. So then they have a better appreciation of the people that are doing it every day.
But you've got to be proud of our program.
Oh, it's an excellent program. It's the best probably in the Midwest.
Really? And they get jobs quickly?
Yes, oh yeah, I don't wanna say they're 100% placement. I mean, they really do well, and I know Mizzou is starting a construction management program, but I don't think they'll ever surpass what we're doing. I mean, they really know they've got a great advisory board. I think there's you're on the advisory board. They just do a great job. They really do. It's the broad range of training. So you're learning ground up, you're learning scheduling, and they're using current software. So these students are learning on software, they're gonna be walking right into an office using. And that's very important.
And you said there's some interns working on the Blunt project. So how cool is that?
Oh, they love it, yeah. One of them's a football player, Grant, he's good, yeah.
Well, we've got some pictures. You're gonna have to turn to those on the screen. I know we have some pictures also of, so.
Construction project. I threw that in because of the concrete truck. But I think I was homesick. Mom made homemade Play-Doh, and so I just sat at the kitchen table.
This is in Missouri,
This
right?
is Cahokia, Missouri.
Cahokia, Missouri. So,
So I started it much earlier, I guess.
yeah, good. Okay, so the next one.
So oddly, this is one of the only true family photos I found. It's from 1972. I don't know how that happened, but this is my brother, my sister in the middle, my mom and dad. This is at my grandmother's house in Curryville, Missouri.
And your brother, he doesn't look happy.
I think it's the pants.
Yeah.
Shows it. So it was six.
All right, let's get out of that picture.
So I was a first class scout, which is akin to Eagle Scout. So I got that when I was a junior in high school. So that was a big achievement for me.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
And I designed the first T-shirt for the Lady Bears when I was with the Fast Break Club when we first started. And if any of those, I know a lot of you were involved in that first Lady Bears when we raised the curtain. That was a big day.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get the bookstore to do anything that said Lady Bears on it. So we just made our own. TJ Sales, and he did that. This is my basketball team. We went from 11-13 to 25-3 while I was and then my coach, Coach Nimmo, was a good friend of Cheryl Burnett's coach. So we had the same kind of basketball, it was full court, man-to-man press. We beat just about everybody by 40 or 50 points.
But here you said, I'm gonna be an architect.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Then my backup was being a basketball coach.
and did you, high school, college?
No, I went and talked to the coach at K-State, but the dean of the school said, do you know how hard it is to go to architecture school? And my mom and dad, do you know what we're paying for? So they weren't paying me to play basketball.
All right, let's go on to the next photo.
So this is at K-State, so like I said, that's where I went to school. This is parents' weekend. If I look tired, it's for real. I averaged about an hour of sleep, not counting other classes. So it was it's a very hard program to get through architecture.
Sure.
And these are-
Yeah, let's take a look at those construction ones
So-
and walk us through this.
So this is a rendering of what the building will look like. Again, you can see all the glass in the front, that's the science on display. So everything that faces the mall are grad student offices and departmental and dean's offices. Right now, the building doesn't have a department office. If you are the department head, that is the department office. So it's hard for students to navigate where to go. So we've designed this so that every floor, they're in the same place. Fourth floor is chemistry. Third floor is Cease School of Earth Environmental Systems, yeah. They changed that on me, so I had, but it's basically geography, geology, and planning. This is the groundbreaking in
So
December
big day, yeah.
of 22.
Very cold that
It was
day.
very cold.
Governor was there,
Yeah.
and Senator Blunt.
And we were hoping to start the next day, but we didn't, and I'll explain that when we do the time lapse. So the first thing we did was demolition, so they brought in a big machine and had a cruncher on it and crunched all the concrete. We separated all of this, the rebar, which there was a lot of, with the concrete. This is just a cut, where the cut at the auditorium, so you kind of see all the rebar that's up in that. And we took all that concrete over to parking lot 18A and crunched it all up and then brought it back and put it in the basement floor. So this is the crusher they use. So we've diverted, well, we've only sent 0.1% of waste to the landfill at this point. So this is kind of a panoramic of what was going on all at once. So they're excavating, they're bringing in the old concrete chips and driving off the dirt as they go.
So on a complexity, I'll stop there, on a complexity building this, with 10, that's really, really hard. Where would you put this?
It's probably in the 8, 9, only because we don't have a lot of room to work. The mobilization is very challenging. We were able to work that out by destroying the West Mall. But one of the reasons we chose that is because it hadn't been developed yet on the east side of the fountain. So this is an opportunity to redevelop that at the end of the project. We've been lucky to have a flagger. This is a woman that stays in the trailer right at the gate. And she sweeps every day, so there's no gravel on the concrete. It's a super clean site. And she flags all the trucks in, has a clicker, and without her, it would be a mess.
So the planning, even to get to this stage, go backwards,
Yeah,
is
so
crazy.
it is.
Amount of time.
We've met, there are at least 80 to 100 university stakeholders that are part of this project. That's just the university. That doesn't count contractors, designers. There's about 200 of them. And we started out with having meetings on mobilization. So we met with every department, from safety to traffic to the department heads, the dean, other departments, you name it. We met with everybody to make sure that they understood what the project was going to be, the impact it was going to have, including Keith, because it does affect Placer Stadium, and made sure that the entire team was bought into what we were getting ready to do. And it's been very smooth because of that. Communication, you can't say enough about it.
Okay, let's go on to the next photo.
So one thing, when you're in the Ozarks working, you hit rock. So we were fortunate. We pulled out 3 boulders. We didn't really hit rock. So those boulders will be reintegrated into the landscape and used as part of the classroom.
So that's one big,
It's a big rock.
looks like dinosaurs.
This is the day they put up the crane. So that was a big day for us. This was taken by Photo Services and Kevin White. And so this is, you can see the foundation going up. It felt like it took forever to get out of the ground. The building being on the north side, we started in the winter. So everything was winter concrete, so it just took a little bit longer. But once we got out of the ground and they started going up, it really took off.
How long is the crane there?
It'll be there till October, I think.
Wow, okay.
So this is the first floor deck. You can see those little things sticking up. Those are called bangets. And what they do is that we put the entire building in from CAD to Revit, which is a 3D software, into a BIM, which is a building information modeling. And it identifies where all of these bangets go. And you can see also the tubes sticking up. Those are for plumbing, electrical that pass through the floors. So they get their transit out. They locate all of those. Each one is color coded per the contractor. And what those are for is once they pour and then pull off the form, this is where they put all their attachments and hangers. So they're already in the concrete. They don't have to drill and put those in. So it just speeds up the work.
So you stick the wires up there.
You know, the hangers to hang all the pipes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a bang it.
Yeah.
That's only when you get hurt.
It's one of our more technical items.
Yeah.
The reason they call it a bang it, because they put it on the floor and they bang it. I think that- So the system that
This
will
is a simple project.
It also is. So the system that we're using for the floor is called a Kobiax with a C. And it's these plastic, recycled plastic pucks, we call them pucks. So we put down, and everything is exposed concrete. We decided to go with concrete partially because of Amazon and the cost of steel and the delay. And the existing building is concrete, so we decided just to go with pour-in-place concrete. One of the concerns with the building is the floor to floor is really too low for a modern science building. You really want 15 feet, and we have 12. So in order to thin the slab down as much, reduce the number of columns, and eliminate beams, we went with this system that it's only the second building east of the Mississippi that's used it. And we put these pucks in the concrete, they put a bed of steel underneath it, they ran all the conduits and everything, and put another bed of steel on top. And that reduced the floor from 18 inches to 13 inches. And you'd be amazed how much that means when you're putting in ductwork and piping and all that kind of stuff. So the contractor is Advanced Concrete. That's the Texter Brothers out of Willard. They're amazing. They've never used this system before, but once they got started, they just, boom, they just went fast. And this system, not only is it lighter weight, so that's how we can reduce the number of columns, no beams, it also reduces the amount of concrete by 40%. So it saves on not using as much concrete. The concrete we're using is a high PSI, usually use 3,000, this is 6,000. So it cures much faster. And so we were able to get back on that slab within 2 days and start the shoring to be able to do the next floor. Where with a normal floor, it's about usually 2 weeks before we can do it.
Okay, let's go to the next photo.
So this is just looking from existing blunt hall. This is the third floor getting ready to be poured. And you can see all the safety measures that they've taken, and the crane does lift up porta potties to the floor. I think that was the superintendent's idea. He doesn't like seeing people not on the job.
That would
It
do
worked
it.
out pretty good. So this is just looking back at existing blunt hall. This is the third floor getting ready to be done.
Okay.
So this is that Kobiak system. You can see the little black pucks all lined up. And they pumped they pumped the roof on Monday. And they had 38 concrete trucks.
Wow.
That did the entire roof deck.
How long did that take?
They started at 3 a.m. and they finished about 10 o'clock.
In the morning?
Yeah, most of the pours, they started between 3 and 4 a.m. The main reason is there's so many trucks. When we start school, there's conflict. So that way they can get their trucks in and out very quickly and not be in conflict with university
So
drivers.
scheduling all this is gotta be a nightmare, I would think.
It's a challenge. It
Yeah.
really is, yeah.
All right, let's go to the next.
Okay, so she's gonna bring up the time lapse. This is always fun to see. So this is December 22, when we found out we're historic. We were hoping to start, so you can see we went through a couple snows. We're kind of waiting for it. We were hopeful, but not quite yet. Still waiting. Waiting, and you'll see the trees pop up. You can see the MSU, somebody put in the snow over there. And another snow, we're still waiting. Couple rains, still waiting. And during this time, you'll see that the trees have changed to green. It's because the camera battery ran out, so we had to get another one. So now we're in spring. And had a couple rains, we're still kind of waiting, we're so close.
How time flies.
And then you'll see a fence pop up here, and just, there it is. So now that's a go. So now you'll start seeing the trees being cut down. We did work with one of the biology professors who took some of the stumps for a project. So they came in, took out all the concrete. The sculpture that was in the plaza, we're gonna repurpose that, restore that to probably the south lawn. The artist was surprised we were saving it, which I thought was interesting. We are gonna use that. So now you see the demolition contractors coming in and start pulling off the roof at the auditorium. And at the same time, we did pre-drilling for all of the deep piers to know where the rock was. And that saved us about $60,000 by doing that. You can see them separating the steel and the concrete. You've got corn cutting in there, cutting items. And then you'll start seeing a big rig come in here in a minute. This is the big tall one. That is 70 feet long. So they brought it in on 2 trailers. And so that is digging, that particular one actually is doing the piling for the shoring. So we had to put in some shoring to keep it all from collapsing in on the basement, which is 15 feet below finished grade. Now you see 2 big rigs. So the other rig is drilling the deep piers and pouring those. So at one point we had 3 rigs, concrete trucks, excavation contractors. We have had no accidents on the project except a guy that dropped a pipe on his hand. And that was on the south side. So we haven't had any accidents on the project with all this happening. So you can see them starting to dig out the foundation or the basement. And you see the shoring kind of going up around the perimeter. And as they keep digging, they had a ramp that pulled everything out on the north side and took it out to John Q. Evans Parkway. And yet now you'll start seeing the concrete forms go up here in a minute for the foundation. We had a couple rain days. We've lost 30 days due to weather, which isn't too bad. They've made up most of it. You can see a concrete pump truck doing the pumping for all the concrete.
So what time, sorry to interrupt,
Mhm,
but what
okay.
time do people start?
We have typically 2 different crews. Different crews start at different times. Most of them 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they leave usually about 3, but there are some that come in later and stay till 5. So it just depends on what they're working on. They try not to get in each other's way. But we have a really good culture on this project where contractors from different teams, construction teams really have worked together to not only make the project safe, but if somebody needs a hand, they offer it. They are all unions, but they're not afraid to help each other out, which says a lot about the project and Whiting Turner, the construction manager. Having a good construction manager makes a big difference on the project. So you can see the foundation going up even more. We did pour the basement slab, I believe it was 20 degrees out. When they poured the first floor slab, it was 11 degrees. So that was the coldest it got when they poured that slab. So that was pretty chilling.
Are you there every day?
Almost every day. Yeah. And then you'll start seeing that first floor slab that's being poured there. And it starts really going up at that point. So right now we've topped out the top deck. On the 22nd of May, we have what we call a topping out party. So what that is the last steel beam. When it goes in, you have an event to kind of celebrate getting to the top. And all of you are invited to, we have the last beam is in the atrium of Old Blunt Hall. And you're welcome to come sign it, especially if you're an alumni. We've had quite a few alumni sign it, put their year on it. I think it ranges from about 1968 to 2024. So you're all more than welcome to drop by and sign that. The event's the 22nd at 1 o'clock. And we'll all meet there at the seating area at the West Mall. So we can watch and hoist that last beam.
Celebrate. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very good.
So it's quite a project.
Okay, now we're gonna go into a lightning round, and we'll get to questions from online and here. So whatever pops in your mind, you just shout it out. You can't really think about it. Books or movies?
Radio. I'm more of a podcast.
Okay, so you
I
don't,
like doing more than one thing.
okay. Wasn't a question, but
Okay.
you gave me the answer. Spring, winter, summer, or fall?
Fall.
Your favorite vacation spot?
I don't really take vacations, but I would say Colorado, probably
Inside an office or outside on a project?
outside of.
Your dessert of choice?
Probably angel food cake with 7-minute frosting.
get real specific if you like. Your favorite spot on campus?
Oh, wow. I like the West Mall. I like watching the students, especially around the fountain. Fountain Day is fantastic. If you can be on campus on Fountain Day, it's just really a great day.
Hmm.
So,
Quiet time or party time?
quiet,
Morning person or night owl?
more.
Groundbreakings or ribbon cuttings?
I kind of like groundbreakings, but,
Why so?
well, because it's the start of something new. I mean, and you worked hard to get to that point, and it's just time to go.
Yeah. Country music or adult contemporary music or none?
Wow. Alternative.
Yeah.
I went to school in the eighties.
Okay. But you're not really a country music.
Not really.
Okay. There's no wrong answer, by the way, so don't apologize.
I mean, I watched Lawrence Welk. I mean, when I was a kid, so
Now you gotta apologize.
we didn't. We didn't need not to.
That was a good show. All right. Questions from online or in here on construction or anything?
I've got a question.
Yes.
How have you managed classes ongoing while this construction is going on?
Well, again, communication. We made a commitment to the dean that we do anything in the existing building until we started renovation, which we're starting this summer. And we worked very hard to make sure that happened. We had to shut some people up a couple times because they were drilling a little loud. But the faculty and the department heads, we've all really worked hard to make sure communication. They know what's happening and what is gonna happen. If they have a concern. They bring it to the dean or their department heads and we address it immediately. We don't let things linger. When you let it linger, people get used to doing it that way and leave it, it doesn't go on. Yeah, but the renovation is what's gonna be challenging. Because we are 100% occupied while we're doing this work, because there's nowhere to go. That's why we're building an addition with labs. So I can't say enough about the dean and the department heads. And it always happens about the time we're at the end of a semester that we have to do this when they're grading and they're just amazing college.
So we have one online. The question is this a lead project? What level is so?
Okay, we don't do the lead on campus and yet we still follow the guidelines of lead. One of the reasons we don't is there's a lot of additional cost to doing lead. And we feel like we need to put our money into the project and not into that. So I would say it's probably at this point, at least a gold level because of all the work we've done with conserving concrete, diverting materials from the landfill. The materials we're using in the building are sustainable and the mechanical system that we're using is very sustainable.
Other questions? Yes.
What do you know now that you wish you would have known 30 years ago?
30 years ago.
Well, at some point, what
Oh,
do you
wow.
wish you could go back and tell younger
I
for?
probably should have been a basketball. No. No, I didn't miss that. I think I take more time off. I love what I do. It's my life's work. I mean, when I used to read or podcast, everything I read is a magazine, a bulletin from construction or design, and that's what I do. And I think to just take more time off would be, give myself the grace to just relax a couple times.
And what would you do?
Probably go to the mountains and just sit.
Okay, that's a good answer too. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, you said though that you don't take vacations, so having just told us what you wish you'd known, are you going to take more time off?
Not till the fall of 2026.
Okay.
That's when the whole project will be complete. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts and every time I do go to conferences, which are kind of my mini vacations, and every time I go, some disaster happens and they just, the day before, they're like, oh my God, you're gonna be gone for 2 days. It's like, yeah, it's 2 days. Okay.
Would you ever go just to run your own office or
No, I agree.
you would stay at an institution like
I
this?
love it.
Yeah.
I always have. It's a great family to work with. I mean, everybody's very collaborative. It's just, it's a great place to be. It really is.
Good. Other questions?
Is 3D printing showing any promise for material processing or manufacturing?
Yeah, actually, it is. I just finished my master's in product management and my thesis was on innovation in construction. Probably the most significant is concrete 3D construction for small buildings. There's issues with getting the nozzle from being stuck, you know, and that kind of thing, but they're working through all that. That's probably the most primary, but also building material parts and how parts go together. And I know, interestingly, at JVIC, they have a lot of 3D printers over there, and they had a part break on one of their mechanical systems, and they 3D printed one because they couldn't find it. And so they got everything back up and running. So in that way, it's very much used, but it's the scaling it up is the real challenge. Yeah.
Good question. Others?
How much of an original historic building do you have to change before you can no longer call it that original building?
It depends on what the state typically looks at exterior of the building and significant interior spaces. So usually that's a public space. They don't like to change anything, but rule of thumb, you can go about 20% items that are changed. What we're doing in Blunt is keeping all of the original concrete, all the original textures and that type of thing. The atrium will not be changed. It will be even more restored than what it is now. But we're not going to go back with plaster ceilings in the hallways. We're not going to do those things because for maintenance and long-term care, it just doesn't make sense. So that most of what Blunt looked like originally, it's going to be pretty much like that.
And the pit, the atrium or the pit, I mean, that is sort of iconic of Missouri State. Pit. Students remember that. I remember.
We should
Studying
have
geology.
part of it, but I don't think we're going to go back
No? Oh, okay.
for sure.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Other questions?
We have one online
Yep.
from Rex. He said, any recommendations for magazines or podcasts for a layperson interested in architecture and design?
One of my favorite ones is 99% Invisible. It's a short podcast, but they talk about the built environment and things you don't think about, like handicap ramps on sidewalks. How did that come about? Why do we have those? And so that's a really good one. Architect magazine is good. It's the main trade magazine for the AIA. That was pretty good. I personally like This Old House magazine. Grew up with that on public television. But those are some resources.
Very good. Well, Laura, I know you gotta get back to Blunt Hall, because you gotta get back to work. Tammy's ready for you to get back.
Today, so.
That's good. But we appreciate you being here. We're glad you're in planning, design, and construction, and wish you the best of luck for the next couple of years as Blunt Hall gets going. Thank you all for being here and have a